As we raise funds to support a healthy environment and thriving communities, it's important to remember that our neighborhoods throughout the Puget Sound region are the legacy of the Duwamish and Salish people. At ECOSS, we are grateful for their stewardship of this place, their home for millennia. And we acknowledge we live and work on land that was never ceded. We are in Duwamish Aboriginal territory. ECOSS educates and empowers businesses and diverse communities to implement environmentally sustainable practices. As a nonprofit, we rely on donations from people like you to fund environmental education and services to small businesses, individuals, and communities. Your generous donation today makes this work possible. This year is unlike any other. ECOSS and the communities we serve need your support more than ever. Please consider making a meaningful gift to keep ECOSS outreach staff on the ground and supporting local businesses and communities. We value gifts of all levels. Every dollar makes a difference. Visit ECOSS.org or text ECOSS to 202-858-1233 to make your gift today. Thank you.
Welcome everyone online to another day of the ECOSS Sustainable Futures Fest. My name is Will Chen, and I am the Communications Manager for ECOSS. I hope you and your loved ones are well in these uncertain times. In the last several days, we've shared ECOSS's work through a variety of lenses, but the shared theme that informs all of our work is environmental equity and justice. Thus today, we want to look more closely at how that shows up in our work and meet the people behind our programs. For that, I am joined today by several of my ECOSS colleagues who work with multicultural communities and businesses on a variety of environmental issues. But before we dive into the conversation, I would like to acknowledge that we, and many of you who are tuning in, are on the unceded ancestral lands of the Coast Salish people, including the Duwamish people, a people that are still here. We honor with gratitude the land itself and the Duwamish tribe. I'd like to give my colleagues a chance to introduce themselves and their work at ECOSS.
Hi everybody, I'm Ruben, and you guys have seen me at the session on Monday where I talked about Green Stormwater Infrastructure. At ECOSS, I mainly manage programs related to that, and I also help in other programs with my language capacity, that is Spanish. And I just want to thank everybody for being here with us today and for this whole week.
Hi everyone, my name is Alan. I'm also a project manager at ECOSS. I think you hear me this week about the sustainability work that ECOSS has been doing, and also stewardship that we have been engaging communities into. I'm pretty much managing New Arrival program as well as a couple of other programs at ECOSS. And I speak Nepali and Hindi.
Hi, my name is David. I work as a multicultural outreach manager at ECOSS. A lot of my work revolves around solid waste and stormwater, and also I provide in-language support in Korean.
Hello everyone. You might have seen me earlier this week in a session about solid waste management. I work as a project manager at ECOSS, and a lot of my work has to do with water management, community engagement, and solid waste management. I speak Urdu and Hindi apart from English.
Hello everybody, welcome. My name is Jose Chi. You probably remember me from Tuesday's presentation about green energy. I'm a program manager here at ECOSS, and I mainly lead the clean energy program that is fairly new, focusing on electrification of transportation and solar energy. And I also manage other projects such as community connections with SPU.
Hi, I'm Charles. I'm working at ECOSS as a multicultural outreach coordinator, and I work in solid waste, business outreach, and residential community outreach whenever there's need of Chinese language support, both Cantonese and Mandarin.
Thanks everyone for your introductions. So what does environmental justice mean to you and your work?
So I think when you think about environmental justice, it's really hard to think about environmental justice without thinking about the environmental injustices that have been committed against Black, Indigenous, and people of color. BIPOC communities have been disproportionately impacted by environmental degradation. Affluent communities have reaped the benefits from, industries throwing pollutants out into the air, or, just development in general. So I think that I see environmental justice as the force to kind of bridge that gap and create a world where people have access to a healthy environment for everyone, regardless of their race, income level, or age.
Following off of that, for me, environmental justice is really about equitable access to resources and to knowledge. When I think of environmental justice, I think of creating a seat at the table for the people that have been the most devastated by environmental degradation, and recognizing that not only have these people been harmed the most because of their experiences, we have the most to learn from them, and they need to be at that table to get us out of the sticky situation that we are in.
Yeah, I echo both of you guys. Pretty much environmental justice, I think more like in terms of, for example, legacy pollution that happens a long time ago. And the pollution happens right now, and you can see the Duwamish River right there. And the community of colors are living around that polluted areas. You can see in South King County, for example, Kent, right? And Auburn, these areas has less park, open space, green space compared to the northern part of King County, where there are many national and state forest and then state like recreational sites, which is not really an opportunity for the South King County residents. And this is already injustice. And that part of like creating this community and building this community and giving them the opportunity to access this open space, green space, and to enjoy the nature that others are enjoying. I think that is called environmental justice.
I think I like to boil it down to just, for me personally, it's equitable access to information and to space as well. And so a lot of my work revolves around presenting the information that's out there that sometimes they're only in English, and they have no way to getting that information. For example, in solid waste, there are rules and there's laws, and these owners, they don't know what they are, and they don't know how to navigate those laws and stay compliant. And so, providing in-language support, whether that be in Korean or Chinese or Vietnamese or Spanish, to me and my work are like an important part of environmental justice.
Environmental justice is to give access to resources and to these historically underserved communities, to resources, grants, and other programs that are always in English, as David said. Having them be translated in different language, be accessible in different forms, and let them be able to access resources is important.
Environmental justice is hard to define just because there's so much that's within those two words. Health impacts, living near the Duwamish in near industrial areas, near airports. These places are dominated predominantly by Black, Indigenous, and people of color, and our communities. And there's a lot to unpack there. Environmental justice is much broader than that. You can talk about gender disparities. Women are, in general, more affected by environmental degradation around the world, because when you look at the poorest of the poor, women make up a big subset of that. When you look at farming communities, in most of those communities, men work during harvest time, and in other times they leave, and women are the ones who raise the food and serve the food and look after the land and get the water, and they're the ones who see day to day what's happening to our environment, but they do not have a seat at the table. So they can share all of this knowledge that they have, because their knowledge doesn't look the way those who right now create knowledge imagine knowledge looks like. It's a really hard subject to define, because the more you look into it, the more there is to find.
So I want to echo what Urusa mentioned about gender, but I also want to take this environmental justice conversation beyond this realm of like Seattle or King County. I want to give you one good example, what is happening in Nepal and Bhutan, for example, the Himalayas nations. This country have no industry, no factories, nothing like, they don't produce like chemicals and things like that. But they are suffering a lot because of flooding and landslide, and all these kind of glaciers are happening there because the industrialized country, they are creating the pollution, and then the global warming is impacting these countries with, they have no voice and no access to these resources. So that is also another part of injustice happening.
A lot of the times, a lot of projects that we work on, the inclusion or the engagement of communities of color or indigenous communities is usually a checkbox, and it's another bureaucratic step that a project has to follow through. So I think to really tackle environmental justice, the communities that are being most affected needs to be upfront and need to be at the table negotiating what the terms of those projects should be. And I think it's the culture at ECOSS that we're always trying to advocate for that aspect of projects. It's like emphasis and opportunity are they giving for community to get involved and actually have an influence on the projects. And then another second thought that, thank you, Alan, for mentioning, is that it's very important, I think, and I think it's a very nice future that we have, is that we all come from different countries. In order for the environmental justice to have a circle, sort of like a circle meaning to what it really means, is that we can not only focus it locally. I think it's a program that is global. And as we know, and we know now with globalization and the way that our communities are working, having to migrate because of climate disasters or economic disasters that are caused by other countries, until we don't come together and we start working to find solutions that will work for everybody and actually understand how the decisions that we make and the lack of leadership that we have affects everyone in the world, we're not going to have, we will always keep on having these environmental injustices. They will just keep on popping up as they have in the last year.
When you do community engagement, like you mostly like people of color, right? Bringing them to the table for the conversation is very hard. And your client might say, oh, see, it doesn't work. I told you, nobody can listen to you, right? Like they don't care, right? If they say that means that's really not true. We are doing in the wrong way. We should compensate people hour to come to the table, because these people have to do 2 or 3 jobs to survive, to make the feeding, right? They have their own needs, and to give the input and feedback to make a sustainable program, we have to invite them, but we have to invite them with respect. And there is an equity component that we need to compensate for them to come to our focus group, info session, survey, whatever. And I think most of our ECOSS program has been working very successfully because we designed that compensation part in our outreach effort.
Also, cultural appropriate food. Not everybody likes pizza or eats pizza, so just saying.
And also, I would say following up, a lot of the complaints that I hear is people are just tired of being mined for information and nothing ever taking place. And so following up, like their opinions really matter, let them know that. I think that's very important, that, a lot of people, or especially the government, kind of forgets. They just take the information and do what they will, and just come back to them when they need more information. That's exhausting.
Yeah, loop the circle, right? Feedback circle.
I think this is what ECOSS excels in, right? Is this relationship building, is this rapport building, because we're all part of the communities that we serve. So I hate to cut the conversation. We're pretty much out of time already. Thank you, everybody. And in closing, I want to thank all of the people watching for tuning in. You've seen over the past week the kind of work that we do. And today you're seeing the challenges that we're facing and how, despite the challenges, ECOSS is able to empower communities and empower businesses and bring about environmental justice and environmental equity. Your gift will help the communities that we serve and help the businesses we serve. Here at ECOSS, we believe, as with all our work, stems the environmental equity piece. We also believe that our fundraising should take the same shape. Throughout the end of the year, ECOSS will be fundraising. A portion of that support will go towards other community-based organizations that we work with and we partner with so that we can uplift other organizations in our community that are also doing good work. I thank everybody for joining us today, and we hope to see all of you tomorrow for the last day of Sustainable Futures Fest. Thank you and goodbye.